And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Causes not just cases, motleyrice.com. Head to jbandgoldwatershow.com as well, and you can find out much more about our program there, about more about Darren and I as well, and follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB. And at Darren Goldwater. The Share Healthcare chat lines are open. Craig's in there. The Wyoming game was insane last night. It was. That was pretty neat to watch, Wyoming and Colorado State. I know many of you don't care about either one of those teams, and I don't particularly either, although I have some connections to Wyoming. But if you like good basketball, it was a lot of fun. If you bet on basketball, like some people I know, and you bet right, then it was certainly fun there. As well. Coming up today at 12:30, maybe you've heard our friends at Gamecock Central made the move from rivals to the On3 network. Gamecock Central's Wes Mitchell will join us in less than a half hour on our program. Talk about that move. Tomorrow is signing day. We'll get a final update on if there's anything out there that we're unaware of at this point in time for the Gamecocks. They obviously are continuing to recruit not just the high school boys, but the transfer portal kids as well. Looks like they're probably going to count at least one forward. So we'll get Wes's thoughts and information on that and much, much more. We do have Keith Allsep ahead today at about 1:30, the host of the Locked On The Gamecocks podcast. Carolina tonight has another Q1 opportunity on the road, this time in Starkville, Mississippi. It's a 7 o'clock tip, nationally televised on ESPNU. Derek Scott and Casey Manning, though, will have it beginning at 6:30 on the Gamecock Sports Radio Network. The ACC's football schedule was released last night as well. Love how these things come together. Darren, you don't ever know anything about it, then all of a sudden there's some big promo like the day of. Oh, by the way, we're releasing a whole conference's schedule tonight. There are some interesting nuggets to get to there, so we'll do that. Maybe you've heard it's official that Tom Brady is retiring from the sport of football. So we will talk about him, not just within the realm of the NFL, but the realm of the greatest athletes ever to do it, ever, period, the end, per their respective sports, generations, eras, whatever you want to call it. We'll get into some of that. Jim Harbaugh, could he be on the move? It looks like there's a possibility of heading back to the NFL at least. So there's a lot to get to here in our program today. But first and foremost, Darren, it is finally fairly beautiful outside, somewhere in the 60s, at least in our neck of the woods. So after we get off the air, I've promised my children we'll go on a long golf cart ride because Daddy does not like to walk.
I was wondering where you were going with that. Yeah, the golf cart ride sounds perfect. And it is finally nice outside. It's about time it's finally nice outside. I'm really looking forward to this South Carolina game tonight. Those are words I might not have said on this show ever, but I am. It's one of those, to me, it's one of those swing-ish games it is for the middle of the pack in the SEC. It's going to tell us a lot about both teams, and not just the outcome of the game, but how the game is played and who can dictate what on each end of the floor. We're gonna learn a lot about the Gamecocks. We're gonna learn. I think you asked Gene Sapikoff yesterday, has this team put it together or something along those lines, and he was saying, well, if they win at Mississippi State, then he'll lean more that way. I'm there too. If they can pull this off, if they can, even if they don't, if they play well, if they play efficient offensively, and I already told you yesterday what I think is the key, limiting the second chance points, it will say something about this team to me if they go in and have a good performance tonight.
Yeah, I agree with that. We've kind of been carefully discussing this over the last couple of weeks. I've repeatedly said that I see things that are pointing in a good direction for South Carolina basketball, but we have Darren carefully constructed the rest of their schedule and basically said, okay, you kind of break it up into these parts here, which the first one was after they got off to the tough start and the loss at Arkansas. He said, well, you got to win the next two against Georgia and Vanderbilt. Mm-hmm. And then you've got 4 Q1 opportunities, and you probably need to win 2 of those if you can find a way to get it done. And then guess what? It's Georgia and Ole Miss, and you're probably going to need to win both of those, although they're both on the road. You need to win them because seemingly your basketball program than those two. And then you got LSU, Mississippi State, Alabama, Missouri, and Auburn down the stretch, and you probably need to find a way to go 3-2 there. And if you could do all that, you're probably in a pretty good spot. Now, I've had some pushback on that, and I get it. A lot of people, it almost seems like, would serve a better self-interest in pulling against the Gamecocks, although you'll say, well, I'm not pulling against them. I'm just not bought into it yet. Well, that's fine. But I'm actually invested in what are they doing on the floor that leads me to believe whether that they're getting better or they're getting worse. In the last 3 games, they've gotten better. I had 3 people yesterday, Darren, point out to me, well, they beat Vanderbilt, they beat Georgia, and they beat A&M. That's not exactly murderer's row. It's true. It's true. How often do they go to Vanderbilt and win? Because it's never. Like, they never go up. It doesn't matter if Vanderbilt's good or bad. They never go to Nashville and win. They lay an egg every time. But they didn't. They won the game. They've traditionally been beating Georgia. I get that. They should have beat Georgia. They did by 18 points. And then they went to a quad one opportunity this past weekend. I don't care if it's Texas A&M. Doesn't matter. Replace that logo with another one. Mississippi State, LSU, whoever you want to replace it with. It's still a quad 1 chance on the road. They're quad 1 for a reason. They won the game. I mean, so... And they've done things in those games. It's not like the other team was just horrible. I mean, wasn't Georgia winning against South Carolina? Like, wasn't A&M winning? Wasn't they all were doing. Ask Bama what it's like to play Georgia. They got beat by them. So, I mean, there's plenty of reasons to celebrate this 3-game winning streak for South Carolina. It doesn't mean that we should anoint them SEC champions or national champions or, they're in the tournament. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is they have done enough over the last 3 games by virtue of 3 straight wins to be given credit for what they've accomplished and be in the position that they're in. They've got a lot of work to do. We all know that. If they lose tonight, we're not necessarily daring back to square one, but we're back to the drawing board about how do you achieve your ultimate goal, which is to get into the dance. If they win tonight, they're probably a little bit ahead of where we thought they'd be at this point in time after that start in the SEC. So they deserve credit. And I know, again, there's just a lot of people that don't want to give it to them. They don't like Frank or whatever it is. I don't care what you like. What's happened is they've won 3 straight basketball games, and they deserve credit for that. I don't care who they've played. They deserve credit for that in a league that for the first time in a long, long time is really, 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 really good. And I'll leave it to you after this, but we all know they're in the middle of a 4-game stretch that's all quad 1 opportunities. Yeah, they still have LSU, Mississippi State, Alabama, and Auburn. So they have 7 quad 1 chances this year. Again, as we mentioned last week, it's the proving grounds for South Carolina. You're either going to be good enough or you're not going to be good enough, but they've certainly put themselves in a good position to try to be good enough.
And if you get the one tonight, then a lot of what you just said in front of them, you start to say, well, hang on. I mean, LSU's a mess right now. What else? Mississippi State's out there again, that you can easily start to piece this thing together. They don't deserve, like, heaps of credit and all this love, but they need, I'll say respect will be the word I'll use right now, because the way they played from the second half of the Tennessee game on, I mean, they wouldn't have beaten some of the high school teams in this area. They were literally kicking the ball out of bounds or chucking the ball out of bounds with very little to do with what the opponents were doing. It was a disaster. Now, yes, they deserve credit for winning the games that were out there in front of them. Has A&M now lost 4 in a row? Yes, they're not playing their best basketball of the year, but you know what they are? They're very good defensively. And South Carolina handled that. Yeah. Their most efficient offensive games have been bunched in. There are others out there, but these last 3 games in particular have been some of their more efficient offensive games of the year. If they can duplicate that again tonight, that's why it's this game to me. That's why I said I'm actually looking forward to the South Carolina games. And there are a lot of really good games tonight. But if they can put it together again tonight, if they can, I'm not going to say, turn it over 10, 12 times. That's not realistic. But if they can manage that aspect, if they can create some shots, if the point guard play, I'm with you, right? Look, again, defensively, South Carolina's strengths match up to Mississippi State's strengths offensively. They're really, really good offensively, and they're going to get after them defensively. If it can be a push on one end of the floor, if you could be efficient on the other end of the floor, they're going to be in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they don't win the game, what's important is if they don't win the game, did they regress or have they actually continued to prove they just got beat by a better basketball team? Because that actually could happen. Just because you lose games doesn't mean that you're horrible. It might just mean the other team's better than you. That, believe it or not, that's sports. It's happened before. But if they also lose the game tonight, it also doesn't mean that this stretch is lost. I mean, they still get Tennessee coming to town this weekend, and I think the best case scenario was, in my opinion, in this 4-game stretch to go 2-2. If they win tonight, they're ahead of progress there. If they lose, they're probably still kind of where I thought they'd be. I thought they had a better chance to beat A&M and Tennessee at home than winning in Starkville and beating Kentucky next week at home or the end of next week at home. So, or whenever that is, beginning of next week at home. So we'll see. We'll see what it looks like tonight. But South Carolina, again, they're in the middle of a 3-game winning streak. They're 13-7. They're 4-4, and they've got a chance tonight against Mississippi State and Starkville. To the Share Healthcare chat lines, I know I've missed a lot of here, so let me try to get caught up. Clint, by the way, Darren shares a birthday with the great Nolan Ryan. Crazy stat on the Big Spur last night. He pitched to Roger Maris and Ken Griffey Jr. Yeah, that is impressive. And Darren chimed in with Jackie Robinson and Ernie Banks as well. Yeah, not a lot of folks can say that, right? That is wow.
I don't know if he pitched to them, but they're on the birthday.
Yes. Yeah, I see what you're saying there. Oh, okay. I was kind of trying to figure out the timeline in my head. Certainly who cares? The Maris and the Griffey stat that's exceptional. That is exceptional. Let's see. Craig, I think they have more of a chance tonight than Saturday. We don't match up as well with Tennessee. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. We don't match up well with Tennessee. Rick Barnes and Frank Martin actually mirror each other. Tennessee seemingly has a better basketball team. They proved that already up there. But Tennessee is kind of a topsy-turvy program as well. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to get out of them. And with a big atmosphere at the CLA Saturday, that could be an equalizer for the Gamecocks. Clint said, I think a lot of USC fans don't want to get their hopes up too much because we've come so close a lot recently just to fall short, just don't want to get burned again. That's fine, Clint, but that's not how I live my life. Whatever. Every team out there, and this isn't, Clint, this isn't directed to you. This isn't personal or anything like that. So what? That's why we love sports. You get your hopes up. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes it does. I certainly got my hopes up in 2017, and they stayed up for a long time. They made it to the freaking Final Four. So, it's, you get your hopes up, you get let down sometimes, you get your hopes up, and it all works out. Had our hopes up in football after they made a nice little run there, and then nobody wanted to go to Charlotte, and they beat the brakes off North Carolina. All right. So, I don't put a lot of my time and waste a bunch of energy and things like that. I look at what's been happening. What's been happening, they've been winning games, and they've been doing the little things right in a Frank system that show you that they're improving. Again, they could regress tonight, but it's at least recently it's been better.
Keep an eye on Tennessee was just brought up as part of that and how they match up. They should have a little bit of confidence because of how well they played in the first half, and maybe can just say, look, we can't possibly duplicate how poorly we played in the second half, and it's in South Carolina. I mean, so you have that. Also pay attention to Tennessee and Texas A&M tonight. They're favored by 11 or 12. I have a feeling A&M puts it together pretty well tonight and keeps the game close. It'll be low scoring. It'll be a low scoring game. But that's one to pay attention to, and then maybe in your head revisit either one of those games and maybe change your opinion on it.
I agree. I absolutely agree with that. And, A&M is going through a tough stretch. Someone pointed out to me on the phone this morning, said, well, they've lost 4 in a row. I said, well, they would have only lost 3 in a row if they beat Carolina. I mean, it's not like, well, they've lost 4 in a row. Yeah, because South Carolina beat them. Look, they were the 4th team to beat them.
And if it happens again tonight, if South Carolina wins the game, and by the way, I'm not picking South Carolina to win the game. I do think they're going to be in the
That's
game.
Good. That generally works out for the Gamecocks.
But if they win the game, then the thought process from a lot of negative folks will be, Mississippi State's now lost 4 or 5. Because they've lost 3 or 4 coming in. They've all been on the road. They had Kentucky on the ropes. That one was in overtime. So that should not be the narrative either. Although it'll be part of the story, I guess.
But again, it would have been, yeah. And to your point, well, they've lost 4 or 5 because Carolina beat them. If it's the other way, no one's going to be like, well, they've lost 3 of 5. Nobody. That's not a stat. You need to lose 4 or 5 for it to actually be a true stat that has some oomph behind it. So they got a chance. I mean, again, it's such a prove it schedule. It literally is, and this is one of those years where the league really helps you if you are quote unquote average against it, 9-9, 10-8, things like that. The league will help you. It's not always that way, and it's been trending this way for a couple of years. But I mean, sweet Jesus, we can go back to 2016. The Gamecocks won 25 games that year. They should have been in the dance. They weren't, and they won 11 games in the SEC, and that didn't help them. It did not help them get into the tournament. Now you can win less and get into the tournament as long as you take care of the large majority of your non-con. So it is an incredibly talented league, and tonight is no different for South Carolina. 12:18 on a Tuesday afternoon. Happy February, everybody. Tomorrow's Groundhog Day, I believe, and it's also National Signing Day, so we'll have some fun around here. We'll see if we get a little groundhog that pops into our show and tells us whether winter's going away early or not. We do know who is going away. It's Tom Brady. He has officially announced his retirement from the NFL. His statement, if you missed it, quote, I've always believed the sport of football is an all-in proposition. If a 100% competitive environment isn't there, you won't succeed, and success is what I love so much about our game. There is a physical, mental, and emotional challenge every single day that has allowed me to maximize my highest potential, and I have tried my very best these past 22 years. There are no shortcuts to success on the field or in life. This is difficult for me to write, but here it goes. I am not going to make that competitive commitment anymore. I have loved my NFL career, and now it is time to focus my time and energy on other things that require my attention. And he went on to say a few other things than that, but basically what that means is, yeah, I've retired. So, we could sit here and have the standard conversation about this. Darren, we all know he's the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. I think Tom Brady's a brand. I mean, when I think about Tom Brady, I don't think about the NFL. I think about sports in general. And I think on a personal level now, I think about what I have been lucky enough to watch with my eyes in my era, because we all grow up and we listen to our parents and our grandparents, and they tell us all these great things about what they used to be able to see, the players they watched. And I got to see Roger Maris, and I got to see Ted Williams. My grandma before she passed away, right before she turned 100, almost 4 years ago now. She's a huge sports fan, and they got to see everything, and love sports, love baseball. I love talking to my grandma about baseball, and I always remember those moments. So we're all going to get to tell these stories again one day, right, to our kids and our grandkids and stuff like that. But I never got to see Brady play in person, but we've been able to watch them play, Darren. And you think about this for a second. I mean, when I think about who are the greatest players ever in sports, the greatest athletes ever, how do you define athlete? Is it whether you're actually a really good athlete or not, or whether you're just successful? I think it has a large majority to do with how successful you and your team have been. But that's not always the case. Barry Sanders, the best running back, in my opinion, never played, and his team was terrible. But he couldn't control that. But I think about Brady. I think about the fact that we got to watch Wayne Gretzky play hockey. Tiger Woods.
Michael Jordan.
God bless LeBron James and what he has done. I think LeBron James is one of the, you can argue, 2 or 3 best players ever. I personally believe Michael Jordan is the best basketball player we've ever seen. That's my personal belief. And then a couple of other ones that seemingly never come up because of the sports that they're in. One of them you only got to see every 4 years, and that's Michael Phelps. I mean, he's the greatest Olympian we've ever seen. And by virtue of that, with 20-some-odd gold medals, he's one of the greatest athletes ever in the history of the world. And then I would say Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson is in my GOAT list. I mean, I'll ask all of you this personally. Craig, Clint, Ryan, I know y'all are old enough. We're all old enough here. We all remember the era of Mike Tyson, right? Like, you remember when Tyson was, Darren, when he was fighting on pay-per-view, and you knew it was coming up on a Saturday, you shut down your life on that Saturday. You didn't have birthday parties. You didn't do any of that crap. Everybody huddled around the TV to watch Tyson fight.
I remember as a kid when he was first starting to become like the legend of Mike Tyson, watching those pay-per-view fights with my dad in our neighbor's basement, because he's the one that had it on this like big old school. Of course it's old school. This is like the 80s, like this projection screen onto his white wall. I remember that vividly. Tom Brady, Clint, I think it was Clint in here. Something about winners. May not be the best quarterback of all time, but he's the greatest winner. Something along those lines is what Clint said. Tom Brady has won more Super Bowls than any franchise has Super Bowls. That stat alone says to me, you're one of the best winners of all time in any sport. It's hard to parallel that stat. It's hard to put anything else in the conversation when you're trying to compare eras, when you're trying to compare quarterbacks to quarterbacks. I mean, passing yards, great. Touchdowns, great. Wins. He's won more Super Bowls than any single franchise has won. That is crazy. And by the way, if you missed what the Jets tweeted out earlier today, that was pretty classic. Brady has beaten the Jets 30 times, which is more wins than the Jets have since 2016. They tweeted something out. Is it real this time when it happened?
I saw a response to that tweet. It was actually a snapshot of the Blue Jays from a few years ago. This was pretty funny because it had to do with one of my closest friends. But the Blue Jays a few years ago said that Justin Smoke, when he was playing with the Jays, had tweaked I think it was a hammy. I can't remember what he hurt, and he'd be unavailable that night, but available to pinch hit if necessary. Somebody responded to the tweet and said source, and they responded with literally us, the Blue Jays. So that was a response to the Jets tweet. Yeah, I see Clint here. I used to hate Brady because I was tired of him winning all the time. I came to respect him because he's the ultimate competitor. I'm a big fan now. I think there's a lot of people like that, Clint. I really do. I don't know anybody that ever really hated Jordan. I'm sure that there's Jordan haters out there. Probably, I just don't know anybody, but I'm sure those who were Pistons fans probably hated Michael Jordan. That's where I was going at. Direct competitor, big fans of direct competitors in the NBA. You know, that's naturally they're going to be out there. But in my neck of the woods, I never really knew anybody. But we always knew somebody that didn't like Brady for a lot of different reasons. The way he laughed, the way he smiled, the way he won, the way he carried himself, whatever it was. There was something that people didn't like him for, but I think a lot of those people are right in line with what Clint is saying right there. I think as time went on and they realized how much of a winner this guy is, and then he goes to Tampa and he wins again, and now we see what has become of New England since he left. You think about a lot of the players that he's played with, and you're like, why was that guy any good? Oh, he had something to do with Tom Brady. Yeah, he's a guy who is in the 6 or 7 names that I mentioned as the most impactful we've ever seen in the sports universe.
We've been lucky, right? I mean, you rattled off that list, and I'm sure the generation that's following us, right? Our friends' kids that are now into their 20s, they're going to have their own list too, and it probably starts with LeBron James. But we've been lucky. Gretzky and Jordan, and you can even stretch it back. I certainly can into Magic and Larry. You can then slide over into baseball and some of the all-time greats that we saw. And we were just talking about Barry Bonds for a while. Yeah, we went through the steroid era, but some of the all-time greatest have been in these at least partial portions of their career in about the last 20 years or so. A lot of them are now leaving, so it's like, all right, here comes the next era. But we're lucky that we did get to see so many just absurd guys.
I have an interesting question for you, because I think when you say the word great, it is such a broad term. And I think one of the defining characteristics of great is how much have you impacted your sport? Like Tiger. I mean, look, he doesn't have the majors record. It's unlikely that he's going to get it, right? But I mean, nobody's ever impacted. I know what Jack and Arnie and those guys have done. I mean, I get it, but nobody's impacted golf like Tiger. I mean, let's just be honest. And part of that is in the era in which he came up in. I mean, much more access, social media, things like that. I mean, times have changed, and I get it. But Tiger Woods took golf from just the gentleman's sport, and he really made it cool. I mean, you look at what MJ did for basketball. I mean, MJ was LeBron James's hero, was Kobe Bryant's hero, and all these guys. They were on record saying it. I mean, even guys that played against MJ, those guys, MJ was like their hero. They might have battled against him, but they were like, Jesus. Have you ever heard of Larry Bird talk about Michael Jordan? It's insane. They were peers. So how have you impacted the sport? You mentioned Brady has inspired this generations of quarterbacks. So I'll say it. They're all going to say it in the coming weeks. Pep up and listen. It's coming. But in baseball, it's a different conversation. It's like, okay, what players changed baseball or impacted baseball positively, right? And it's strange. I always go back to one name, Babe Ruth. I always do. I always go back to Babe Ruth, way back to Babe Ruth, because he was cool. He was the Babe, and then he inspired a generation of players who inspired a generation of players who inspired a generation of players. I think you can make a great argument in our generation, Darren, for King Griffey Jr. And then there's always others out there. Willie Mays, obviously the color barrier being broken by Jackie Robinson and things like that. No doubt they all are in the conversation, but I always go back to Babe Ruth. I mean, like if you say to the common person, what do you know about the history of baseball? Babe Ruth. It always comes up. So baseball is a much broader conversation to have. I don't think it's as pinned down as these other ones. I don't personally. Wayne Gretzky, for instance, in hockey.
Sure. And I think part of that reason is my view of the current crop of the baseball guys. Because if Babe Ruth was cool, this new round of young star that's in baseball right now, we talked about this most of last year during the season. There are young superstars all around the league, and they are making it cool again to be a fan of the sport, to play like they're playing, like their hair's on fire, to be as multi-dimensional, multi-tooled as a lot of these guys are. We're seeing, I think, that change in baseball now. I think we'll look back and be like, yeah, I mean, look, I bring up Bonds all the time. I think the current crop that's in there now, I love them. I love their personality. I love their attitudes. I think baseball's in good shape moving forward.
BJ.
Dude, he was on the Orioles for a while. That's where I was.
I know.
I mean, yeah.
He was on the juice too. For anybody asking,
I haven't heard that name in 30 years.
My uncle, when he got traded to the Braves, used to call him BJ Circle, and you can figure it out from there because he just really struggled, and he was this damn BJ Circle blank. You can use your imagination. All right, it's 12:30 on a Tuesday afternoon. We need to hit a timeout. Wes Mitchell is up next with Gamecock Central. They've made the move today. Day one at On 3. We'll talk about that, signing day, and more right here on the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right. We take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work. And two others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, Park West.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products including asbestos and talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
You are listening to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
All right, 12:34 Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back, the JB and Goldwater Show. I am so happy that Clint mentioned Tony Gwynn, because Tony Gwynn was one of my favorite players to watch play the game. Yes, he just went about his business. But that era of player is over. I mean, Tony Gwynn, guys, in the big leagues, in which he played, for 20 years, a career 338 hitter. I mean, he never struck out more than he walked. He only struck out like 400 times in 20 years. You do the math real quick. There's guys that strike out 200 times a season now. I mean, it was unbelievable what he did. And he only hit 100 something home runs, but he is as far as like a hitter, he's the best hitter I've ever seen, ever.
And people will tell you, him and Ichiro, both of them, if they wanted to have hit more home runs, they would have. That just wasn't what they were trying to do.
That's right. They were just absolutely. I mean, Tony Gwynn was the best pure hitter that I've ever actually seen. And I actually watched him play when he came to Atlanta one time back in the mid-90s. That was really cool.
You misspoke Juan Soto's name.
No, I didn't. I didn't even think about Juan Soto. This is our Juan Soto, the big hitter for Gamecock Central as part of the On 3 network now. Day one, and you, if you haven't subscribed yet, should, because it's $1 whole for 1 whole year. I was a little I thought you'd go with 99 cents, Wes, but $1, we can make it work. Congratulations on the move. I know it's been a lot of work behind the scenes for Brian Shoemaker and your entire staff, but it's here. How's it going?
It's good, man. Yeah, appreciate y'all having me on. It's been exciting. It's been a lot of work. We flipped the switch, I guess you would say, at midnight last night, and yeah, we're officially on the On 3 network. Obviously, anytime you make a big change like that, there are some just things you have to handle, ways you have to do it, and obviously, because Rivals and On 3 are completely different networks, we were unable to just take the subscriptions from over there and transfer them over to On 3. It would have been very difficult to take thousands and thousands of people and sort of, well, did you have 6 months? Did you have 8 months? Did you have 2 months? So basically we decided, look, we're going to say there's a $1 transfer fee, and anybody can get signed up for just the $1. So that was the best way we could figure to make the best of a situation that wasn't the easiest as far as sort of trying to get people onto the new platform. But yeah, we're excited, man. On 3 Network is still fairly new. It's in its infancy, but some really heavy hitters that are writing for On 3, and I would imagine there are more to come.
I did see Shannon's tweet a little while ago. Shannon Terry, for those that don't know who he is, he's been doing this a long time. He knows how to build a network pretty quickly and very successfully. He said that in less than 12 hours, over 3,000 have subscribed to the new Gamecock Central with On 3, and I'm sure in the last 45 minutes that number's gone up even more. So that is absolutely fantastic. That is not all the subscribers that you had prior to when you were on the Rivals Network, so hopefully everybody will be coming over. I'll just gladly admit I have not subscribed yet, Wes. I'm one of those who in the 40% that haven't done it. I plan on doing it. Just, we got Bed Bath & Beyond and all that stuff. I don't know if I have time, so we'll get there. So what do we expect? And we will talk some Gamecock football and hoops with you here in a second. I do want to get your thoughts on hoops, But what do we expect? Y'all have made quite the shift over the last couple of months. You hired the Yuva guy, and so there's a lot of digital stuff popping out left and right, and the Garnet Trust is alive and well. It's incredible. What new is coming with this change? Can you share any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say for the most part, more of the same. I think people who've seen what we were doing the last few months with Mike coming on and the video stuff and Garnet Trust, that was pretty much a preview of what's to come. I would say just probably more of that. We're going to kind of put it on steroids and go from there. I think, the thing with On 3 is that you have a very a known forward-thinking owner and CEO and Shannon Terry, who you mentioned. He helped start Rivals back in the day. He started 24/7 Sports. So I'm excited just about the sort of technical upgrades that are going to be coming to On 3, and then obviously we're all in on the whole digital video space and the exclusive interviews with players. We debuted a Josh Van interview today where he was talking about his decision to come back. I think that's the first time he's talked since he made that decision. So more of the same, but hopefully in that same light, even better in that we've got our entire staff over here, and we'll all get settled in on this new platform and just go from there.
Does it change anything with your 2:00 shows when you and Colin go on? Do you guys still get to do that,
Chris?
Yeah. Me and Chris will be on at 2:00. as usual. This time of year, it's not. We'll leave the daily shows to the two of you this time of year, but we'll be doing 2 or 3 probably a week, and then during the season, obviously, we'll go back to our 5 days a week and go from there.
Fantastic. It's I know it's been a lot of work to put all this together. I did see Craig mentioned the Garnet Trust episode this morning with Josh Van. I checked in on that. I couldn't watch the whole thing because we have a show too, so I had to kind of prepare for it. But did I see that? Does Josh have blue hair right now? Did I see that right? Did he do that in honor of beating North Carolina, or what's going on there?
I don't, and really, let's be honest, guys, a big missed opportunity by Chris Clark there, not asking.
Yeah, that would have been my first question.
The blue hair.
What's it?
I don't know, but it was a good interview, man. I think I like Josh, man. He's a good kid. He is absolutely over the moon about his daughter that was born in December, and obviously life-changing event for him. And you could just tell how proud he was and how excited he was. And, really cool opportunity for him to come back to South Carolina as well and use that extra year. And, not to get all into the NIL and Garnet Trust and stuff, but I think there were times in the past where guys maybe in that situation would have had to go kind of take their chance at going pro. And with NIL, it sort of gives these kids an opportunity. I mean, Josh Van's one of South Carolina's best players. He should be able to make some money off of his name. I mean, his literal name, So I think it's really, really cool that that's available to players now, and he can get some money to help support his daughter while hopefully he has an even bigger season, puts more big plays on tape, and then can get drafted higher.
Well, Darren and I are not exclusive when I mention this, but I think the large majority of people out there that have young children will understand when we say it. When you bring a child into the mix, it pushes you a little bit further than you felt like you were pushed before. You want to go be great because you want to provide what you can for them. And I got a feeling Josh Van in 2022, regardless of what talent they fill in around him, which they're doing a nice job of right now, he's going to be special. And Wes, it'll be even better because they can't sit there and double team him all the time. You're going to have a Jaheim Bell out there and an Antoine Wells and an Austin Stogner and a bunch of other dudes that carry on Joyner to keep an eye on. And he's pretty good in one-on-one situations, man.
Yeah, I think, Josh, I always kind of thought Josh had it in him, but the thing that Josh most impressed me with this year was just the ability to go create catches. And what I mean by that was some of these jump ball situations. He's not the tallest guy in the world, as far as compared to other receivers. He's not short, but he's not tall. He's sort of an average sized receiver, but he was able to go up and make some plays and catch the ball over some guys. And, I think being able to spread the ball around and if Antoine Wells Jr. can come along the way I think he will once he gets settled in at South Carolina, I mean, that should be a big opportunity. You've got, I think, a better quarterback situation overall this year as well. So should be a chance for Josh Van to have a big final season at South Carolina and maybe raise that draft stock a little bit. I know certainly that's what he's hoping. And, he seemed excited to get it rolling for a final season.
Yeah, for what it's worth, my dear friend Michael Flint said to me a couple of years ago, he said, man, this Van kid, he is explosive off the line of scrimmage. If he could just finish routes and when the ball's not on his side of the field, keep doing his job. They kind of had to work through some of those issues with him, but he's come alive, and he is going to be a guy that people will be paying attention to coming into the season. Real quick here, Wes, tomorrow is signing day. It's amazing how times have changed, right? 3 or 4 years ago, we're all fired up about tomorrow's commitments, and it's going to be an all-day deal, and you're staying up to the wee hours of the morning trying to get scoop and this, that, and the other. Seems all quiet on the Western Front this year, my friend. Not a lot going on, unless there's something we don't know about with South Carolina. You hearing anything, or is that still the case?
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be very quiet, y'all. I mean, South Carolina currently has 2 scholarships available that they can count towards 2022. right now, obviously they had Malik Heath in the wide receiver transfer this past weekend. He is going to be in like a May or June enrollee. It's past the time for somebody to enroll for spring. So he's got some time to make a decision. One of those scholarships could ultimately go to him, but otherwise, as far as like tomorrow goes, South Carolina will just sort of hold serve based on everything I've been told. They're going to hold serve. They'll find out, what they're going to do after the spring as far as those 2 extra scholarships go, because hey, the portal is very fluid. I would look for things to sort of settle down just a little bit. I see one of your chat folks here mentioning Caleb Williams. That was one of the big final dominoes that's out there. But, the Dart kid has committed now. Michael Trigg is committed now. Like a lot of the big names have found their homes. I think it probably settles down a little bit. But after the spring, you're probably going to have another sort of burst of guys in the portal, and South Carolina will certainly be very active as they were this time around. They'll be active then as well. Receiver, whether that's Malik Heath or whether that's somebody else that pops up down the road, I think that remains a priority, getting another receiver that can come in and play. Otherwise, I think you probably are looking at like best available. I think that's a route you could take within reason as far as how you might use that other scholarship in the spring.
All right. So to be clear, if they don't sign anybody tomorrow, these 2, they'll roll forward. They'll count to 2023, right? These 2 open scholarships, correct?
Well, they'll probably fill these in the spring and count.
But, so those will count for 22. Okay.
Yes, there are 2 available for 22.
But if they don't fill them in the spring, then they can roll them forward to 23. Am I understanding that right? They can count them towards the next class?
That's a good question. I don't know, because they're still locked into the 25 for the 2023 class.
Okay. So they would just go to waste, I guess. I didn't.
You would want to use them.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I guess what I'm getting at here is at some point in time, I mean, we've seen scholarship, like we've seen players pushed off. Okay, for instance, the quarterback from Spring Valley right now, I forget his name, but it's my understanding he's not signing right now. He's going to sign later and count towards next class, right?
Correct.
Okay, so but he's taking one of these spots.
If you didn't use those 2 that are sitting there waiting, you would just go ahead and count him towards 22. If when all is said and done, there's room, you go ahead and count him to 22 is probably what you would do.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, I don't ever know how this crap works. That's why I ask these questions, and I probably confuse everybody. Well, you mentioned Heath, the young man from Mississippi State that transfer. There is other wide receiver news for those maybe that missed it. Drake Davis has announced his retirement from football. He's battled some injuries over the years, so best wishes to him and his future. Otre Smith from Wando has settled at North Carolina Central, transfer west. But golly, man, I feel like just a couple. I haven't looked at it probably in a couple of weeks or more, but there was like 16 receivers or something on the roster. I mean, there was a lot of dudes listed as wide receivers. There are a lot of scholarships also on that roster, which that's going to have to trim down. So if they're still planning on adding wide receivers, does that tell you that there's probably going to be more attrition at that position as well?
Yeah, I think that would be a pretty safe bet, without even knowing which guys it would be or details on it. I mean, that's just how the numbers are probably going to work, you would imagine. And with that stuff, you're always looking who are across the board, who are the upperclassmen that really are not in a position to contribute whatsoever. And, that's generally when you see guys move along. I'd imagine internally, there's already a feel for what that might look like. I imagine guys already sort of have a feel of, hey, if I'm not projecting to be a contributor after this spring, and I'm an upperclassman, probably time to try my hand somewhere else, at a different school. And a lot of times these guys these days, as well as they structure the academic stuff, you can graduate and have a year or two left of eligibility relatively easy. So, I would look for that to happen at South Carolina. And yeah, they have the numbers at wide receiver, and it's nothing against that group of guys personally, but they need more guys who are like easy, like impact guys, guys that you project to come in and just play right away and help get this offense off the ground.
All right. So they just had a junior day. What did you learn from that junior day? Wes, I don't know this to be true, right? But the staff has now been here for a year, a little over a year, or some of them, most of them, I guess. This was, I remember last year after Shane got hired, talking with you and those that we know in the recruiting circles that cover recruiting about relationship building, right? And how a lot of what we hope to see is going to be down the road, years 2, years 3, years 4 under Shane Beamer. It's really difficult to come right in and just establish a bunch of relationships and then sign a bunch of dudes, which last year we saw that. That's why they went to the transfer portal. And then this year they've been able to kind of, they certainly have a pretty good recruiting class, but they're back into the transfer portal. But now you're into that next group, right? So what are we hearing from that group who've had a year to establish a relationship? They're probably going to have another one to continue establishing that relationship with this staff before some of them or many of them make a decision. What did you learn coming out of that junior weekend about some of these top prospects and how they're viewing South Carolina?
Yeah, they're South Carolina's at the table is the way I would say it with a lot of these guys. Like they're in the conversations, or they're in the conversation with the various top players. They've been able to get them on campus. And I think that's the first step. You go back to last month, the first junior day of this offseason. That's the first junior day Shane Beamer has been able to have since he arrived at South Carolina. So that was literally the inaugural junior day for him because there was no in-person recruiting this time last year. So it's all about those early relationships. I kind of look at recruiting like this. This is the time of the process, especially if you're a 2024, you're a rising junior. But a lot of these rising seniors as well, most of them aren't deciding where they're going yet. They're deciding who they're going to look into. They're deciding who are going to be my 4 or my 5. And if you're South Carolina, for most of these guys, a lot of these guys, you're putting yourself in position to be in that top 3, that top 4, that top 5. The question that remains is, can you close on them, in the coming, 10 months, basically. So time will tell that. But I think you look at the list of guys that have been on campus, the guys that they're strongly in it with. There's been some buzz about this Trayon Webb kid, 4-star running back from Jacksonville, that South Carolina could be in the best position right now. Now that's you don't. If you're a fan, you don't jump for joy at all yet. I mean, he's been committed to 2 different schools. He's fresh off a visit. I mean, it's a good place to be, but there's a long, long, long way to go, right? So I think right now, get as many top guys on your campus as possible. It's a dead period again, but for that month in January, South Carolina got a bunch of guys in. You had the dead period, and then spring hits. You try to get some guys in for that, get guys in for the spring game. Coaches themselves will be on the road checking out spring practices. So it's a process, and the early steps of the process look good for South Carolina. Time will tell, how many of these guys they can close with.
Obviously, last year it was the offense for the large majority of the season heavily scrutinized. That included Coach Satterfield as the offensive coordinator. But Wes, over the last couple of weeks, the more that I've seen and the more I'd say, if you want to call it digging, that I've done, there are some prospects in this class, including quarterback Tanner Bailey and others, who are very much looking forward to playing in this offense. What have you learned about their relationship with Marcus Satterfield, what they're saying, what they're seeing, the players, the guys who are going to, if he's still here in the next few years, they're going to be in this system. What do they like about it? Why are they so intrigued about something that largely was scrutinized throughout the season?
Yeah, I think the recruiting pitch there and the thing the guys are intrigued, I think that's a good word, are intrigued with, is just the fact that it is an NFL based scheme and that there's a lot of concepts and terminology that has a huge carryover to what you would be doing at the next level. Now, I think the big thing for South Carolina, the absolute key for Carolina, is that they are able to structure this thing going into next year to where you're walking that line between being a quote NFL offense while also being able to sort of put it all together at the college level when you have a limited amount of time compared to having a ton of time in the meeting room and on the practice field at the NFL level. So I think anytime you're going to run an NFL offense, it's always going to be a question. And, it's a line you got to walk. It's a big playbook. I think South Carolina has to continue to sort of chop it down a little bit more this offseason. But the concepts work. It's not like these plays don't work. Every offense that's ever been designed by a coach, the plays probably work. It's just about efficiency.
Execution.
I think is probably the word. Yeah, efficiency in installing it and then going out and executing it. And that all works hand in hand. So, I think I know it's a huge offseason for Satterfield and he's going to have he's got some guys to work with, right? Like he's got some dudes. So it's going to be very important that they have a good spring as far as figuring out exactly what they want to do. I really think going back to last year, y'all remember the talk in the spring, and there was a lot of talk about we're trying to figure out what we're going to be. You heard coaches say that, you heard offensive players say that, and it was kind of almost like trying to find out what we do best. Even in the spring, that takes up a lot of time if you're repping a lot of different things. So I think it's going to be pretty key this year. Maybe you have a little bit better feel for your overall personnel to go ahead and sort of lock this thing down in the spring and start to figure out exactly what you want to be on offense.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the installs done. I mean, they went through a whole season in the offense. Yeah, they're going to have to – there's obviously going to be some different things, but nowhere near like starting from scratch like they were last year. So hopefully that's good. All right, Wes, final minute or two with you here. Brandon did ask a question. I would say this is a hard no, but you can never say never anymore with the transfer portal. Do you think Marshawn Lloyd transfers with us bringing in 3 new running backs? Of course, that does include Lil Turbo that we saw last week, the young man from Columbia, who, by the way, if he's transferring from Columbia as a preferred walk-on, probably has a boatload of academic money. She's probably on scholarship anyways. But Wes, I'm not going to speak for you here, but I have heard nothing, even that sniffs on that type of conversation. Right?
Yeah, you never know, man.
You never know.
The thing with this is I see people keep bringing up that they brought in 3 running backs things. Well, one of the guys is a preferred walk-on. So, and that's nothing against Dante Miller, as you aptly said, Lil Turbo, best.
Lil Turbo.
Excellent name, by the way. A plus.
It's awesome, dude. Talking about NIL. This guy should be selling rockets out in front of Williams Bryce Stadium all spring.
Yeah, love it, man. But yeah, when you bring in a walk-on, that's a little different than being like, oh, they brought in 3 scholarship guys, and Christian Bill Smith has 1 year of eligibility, so it's yeah, they brought in 3 running backs, but I didn't look at it like, oh my gosh, they're trying to run people out of the running back room. That's not it. It's
no.
They lost 2 running backs, and they added 2 scholarship running backs. So that's really all it is. And yeah,
Yeah. Anybody, if you want more on that, go back to our conversation with Pat DeMarco last week. He discusses the running back room at length and the incoming guys outside of little Turbo because he hadn't committed yet. But it's a pretty good insight there. And then finally, I know Spencer Rattler's on campus. Probably hadn't heard too much, but have you heard anything about how he's kind of fit in over there with the rest of the Gamecocks?
Yeah, not a whole lot yet. I mean, he just got here, but I did. You go back to the orientation process when he came in and the recruiting process. I mean, everything we've heard from other people, and even just my personal dealings with Spencer Rattler, he's been. The kid carries himself like a professional. I think he's very driven to sort of prove himself after the way things kind of ended at Oklahoma. I think he's got the right mindset moving forward. And, I think fans are going to be excited. I know fans are going to be excited. It's going to be a fun spring. And I'm looking forward to sort of hearing about the gelling process. Anytime a new quarterback comes in, and you're a transfer and everybody knows who you are, right? Like you are the Spencer Rattler. Probably be a little transition period, right? But that'll be interesting to hear how that's going. But talk about a big name guy, man. Speaking of On3 earlier, they have this NIL valuation tool. He's like the number 4 most marketable college football player in the country. So big name dude. Coming in with some new teammates. I think that'll be something, just to keep an eye on is how long it takes to sort of all these guys to gel together. But that's a very natural thing, man.
What's crazy is that he's one of the most marketable. So is Caleb Williams is one of the most marketable and going to Southern Cal. And they're both, I think Rattler's top 10 Heisman betting favorite right now. And Caleb Williams will be too.
Yeah. Well, and they were both the number 1 quarterback in their class coming out. So, Lincoln Riley just literally recruited the top quarterback in the country in like 2 out of 3 years.
Yeah, and then
he
took the top transfers in the country every other year, and it's kind of worked out for Lincoln Riley. I think moving forward, you're going to see the top quarterbacks in the state of California probably hang around the state of California because Lincoln Riley's out there in the southern part of that state, as we well know. Well, Wes, we'll let you run on that note. I know you probably still have much to do on this busy launch day, but congratulations to Brian Shoemaker and yourself and Chris and Mike and Colin and Kendall and your whole team at Gamecock Central. Always exceptional content with the fact that it's done by exceptional people, as we well know. And I hope that the future is so bright. I'm sure it is. I know you've already had over 3,000 subscribers today, which is unbelievable. And we'll continue to help you in any way that we can. Congratulations. Great stuff.
Awesome, guys. Hey, I appreciate it. Hey, everybody sign up for $1, all right?
$1 here. That's it at Gamecock Central. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
As part of the On3 network now. Awesome stuff. 103 on a Tuesday afternoon. Got to hit a timeout when we return. The ACC schedule announced last night. So a couple of little nuggets to get into and out of there. We'll get to Jim Harbaugh as well. And we do have Keith Allsep coming up today at 1:30, and we're going to talk some Carolina hoops with him tonight. Carolina looking for another quad 1 win on the road. All ahead. Hang tight. We'll be right back. Right here in our backyard is Motley Rice LLC, a law firm that hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for South Carolinians who were injured while traveling by plane or bus, harmed by medical drugs and devices, or burdened by dangerous auto recalls, including Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. We are honored to have Motley Rice as a sponsor for the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risk their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and to others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Flamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
All right, final hour on this Retirement Tom Tuesday on the JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Keith Allsep's ahead at 1:30 this afternoon. Locked On The Gamecocks podcast host provides some insight into tonight's South Carolina Mississippi State basketball game. We'll also hit on the ladies. Gamecock have Alabama coming up on Thursday there. They just notched their 20th win of the season over the weekend down in Gainesville against Florida. Thanks to Wes Mitchell for joining us there again. $1 for the year. So if you'd like to get some amazing content, as always, from Gamecock Central, it costs you $1 for the next 365 days. That is very affordable, I think. For the
I'm not going to last very long either.
Nah, I'd probably do that quickly, sooner than later. And because if not, you're probably going to cost yourself some money. And then I think next year it's $99 for the whole year, which again is still a pretty good deal. So, all right, coming up, well, it is coming up. But last night the ACC football schedule was released. For those that missed it, for the Tigers, are going to open on a Monday. It's Labor Day in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Clemson at Georgia Tech, a very interesting Week 1 matchup for the Tigers, obviously in an ACC tilt there against a team that I think has underachieved largely since they changed coaches a few years ago to Jeff Collins. So we'll see what Georgia Tech has to dish out against the Tigers to open the year. And then Clemson's home. They've got Furman and Louisiana Tech in back-to-back weeks, September 10th and 17th. Then they're on the road at Wake. As a matter of fact, this is the this is 4 of 6 on the road for Clemson this stretch here. At Wake Forest, home against NC State, at Boston College, at Florida State, and then home against Syracuse before their open Halloween weekend. So congratulations, Tiger fans. You get to trick or treat without having to worry about traveling for football. And then they'll go to Notre Dame, and then 3 in a row to finish. Louisville, Miami, and South Carolina, all of which should be better next year. So the November slate inside of Death Valley, it probably has a chance to be a good one. As a matter of fact, if Louisville, Miami, and the Gamecocks are all better like we anticipate, I mean, Louisville has brought in some players, but they were young in some areas, and there's a big thought that Coach Satterfield, this is kind of a make or break year for him. Like, you either need to be good or you're gone. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people out there think they got a chance to be pretty good. Miami is totally rebranding itself as whatever, the U 2.0 or something under Mario Cristobal. And then obviously we know in our neck of the woods what's going on with South Carolina. You put that with the fact that they have to travel to South Bend. That's a tough November for Clemson. That's a very tough November. And, you know, I get it. I don't beat the drum for the ACC. It hadn't been any good for so long comparatively to the rest of the country. But when I look at this, I do think that this is a challenge for Clemson next year. The fact that North Carolina's on there or not on there, that doesn't matter to me. I don't know what North Carolina's going to be. Darren, I tend to think that they're actually, even with a great recruiting class, not trending in the right direction anyways. But Boston College trips are tricky. Who is Florida State? If Florida State is surging, you got to go to Tallahassee. That's the thing, is Florida State hasn't really done much the last couple of years, but you can never just write off a trip to Tallahassee either. All right. And Clemson is the team that everybody is trying to beat in the ACC always now. They are the hunted. So you should pretty much always get somebody's best effort there. So it's funny, with the exception of Notre Dame, we all know that's going to be difficult. Tricky road contests is what I would call them. Georgia Tech, Boston College, and Florida State, much more so than Wake. We'll see what Wake looks like, but you know, it's just nothing intriguing about playing in front of 40,000 people there. And
that Georgia Tech game too is at the Benz in Atlanta, not at Georgia Tech.
Right. Yeah. That's what. Yeah. At Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So, and there's going to be a lot of Tiger fans that make the trip for that. Let's be honest. Right. It'll probably be 50-50, if not shaded towards Clemson. So I don't look at this schedule and say, oh, it's a cakewalk. I don't. I think that there are some challenges in there. I think what's important to recognize is, regardless of what we have traditionally thought about some of the opponents on this schedule, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, Boston College, Louisville, even Miami, and how much they've underachieved, all of them have some things that are pointing in the right direction. And because Clemson has to travel to a few of those programs, Darren, I'm not saying that they're going to be hard. I'm not saying they're going to be easy. I don't know. But I think there is intrigue in the fact that, once again, there could be hiccups there for Clemson to clear. Now, if any Tiger fans take that as me taking a shot at the program, don't. Because historically they don't have anybody on their schedule. They're going to walk right through it. There are challenges. This is people actually finally respecting an ACC conference. I mean, an ACC conference schedule. So I think there's some challenges there. And with Clemson losing all these coaches and players this year, man, you just never know.
So there's your little dig right there at the very end.
No, I didn't mean it that way. I mean, it's a transition period right now for Clemson, as we know. So.
Yeah. It's a time of, we've talked about this a lot, right? I mean, I reserve judgment on these hires and promotions the same way I reserve them all around the country in every sport, to wait and see what happens, which is what this schedule to me is, because there's a ton of unknowns on this schedule. I'm not going to know how good this Clemson schedule or the ACC in general is until we try and start to figure some things out. We don't know what Cristobal is going to do at Miami or how quickly. We don't know the trend for Florida State, which felt better towards the end of the year, but we don't know what that's going to look like. Louisville, I have a hard time believing that they're going to ascend back to pushing Clemson in the ACC. I agree with you with North Carolina. That feels like they're sliding back. I think what benefits Clemson, I think what you do know about Clemson's schedule is the early part of the schedule.
Yeah.
Everything is there for them to just fly out of the gates, handle Georgia Tech. Then you got Furman and La Tech. And then here's your question, right? Wake Forest will be the first time people look at Clemson and say, okay, like this will be one of those barometer games. They're probably going to be heavily favored in the game, but we don't know exactly what this Wake Forest, like that's what talking about a 2022 football schedule in February is going to bring us. It's hard to figure out like what this next version of Wake Forest is going to be with Hartman back. I know that. And what Notre Dame's going to look like and what Miami's going to look like and what Florida State's going to look like. It looks like the back half of that schedule is a lot stronger than the front. That part looks certain.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you don't have any breaks in November, which Clemson traditionally, much like South Carolina, has somebody in there that's a non-con, a Wofford or a Furman, or I think they played UConn a couple of years ago or something like that. That's not the case this go around. The good news is, 3 of those are at home. Bad news is one of them's at Notre Dame. But again, to your point just a minute ago, who's Notre Dame? I mean, we don't know. I mean, what is Marcus Freeman going to do with that program? I mean, do I think they're going to fall off the face of the earth? No, it's Notre Dame. They'll be fine. I mean, they're going to have a ton of players, but I mean, are they going to be fine, or are they going to be great, or are they just going to be okay? And and okay at Notre Dame is 9-3.
Not good enough.
Yeah, it's not good enough. So, I mean, if you're walking into a Notre Dame team who's lost a couple of games by November the 5th, and you're the Clemson that we've been used to seeing over the last 6 or 7 years, I probably like your chances there. That would just tell me that Notre Dame's probably not as good as they've been, and you're probably is what we're used to seeing. But, if Notre Dame's undefeated, who knows? So we just don't know. We don't know. There's, as you mentioned, there's a lot of unknowns.
But it could work out
on the schedule.
And it could really work. It could benefit if, again, I just tweeted it out, like tons of unknowns. Fortunately, we have about 7 months to figure some of this out. If this is, let's say Notre Dame continues on their track and they nailed the hire with Freeman and every one of those guys is all in and Notre Dame is again a top 10, top 15 type of program. Let's say Cristobal has Miami playing at a higher level very fast and then by the end of the year, Miami, regardless of their record, is a formidable team. And let's say, I'll throw South Carolina into the mix. Let's say South Carolina takes another step forward. And instead of a 7-win team, this is an 8 or 9-win team. There's a chance that all benefits Clemson. Because then at the end of the year, instead of the focus on the college football playoff announcement being, well, here's what's going to hurt Clemson, their schedule, the ACC. Well, then if all those things fall into place and then Clemson goes through all those things, that talking point is moot. It'll be the first year in a long time where that talking point can just get tossed out the window because of the end of the schedule if all of those dominoes fall for the other teams. Yeah,
I mean, look, we've long said around here, Clemson, and I've got some great friends who are Tiger fans. Shoot, a buddy of mine who is a part of the Clemson football program has said numerous times, dude, we need South Carolina to figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, we like kicking your ass every year, but we'd like to beat you when you're good, not when you suck. Which, it's been a while. This past year was the best that Carolina's been. I guess 2017, but coupling all that though, because you're right. Overall, when you group it together, November, it certainly seems like a challenge. No, it's hard for me to look past October 1st. I mean, NC State, and it's way too early, but way too early. ESPN has them in the top 10, and there's reason behind that. Everybody else out there is saying, "Hey, look." I mean, they were basically returning everybody. This is an NC State team that they won 9 games this year. That a lot of people think circle them like they're like this last year's version of North Carolina now.
Exactly. I was just thinking, like right now, like this is North Carolina from last year, and this is NC State this year. Like they're similar in the off-season thought process. That last year it was North Carolina trending up, and okay, this is going to be the other team to beat in the ACC. And this year, NC State is a very, very popular team to be riding that train from a conversation standpoint now.
Yeah, I absolutely, and I think that the reasoning, offensively, I think people like what they can do, but the flip side of that coin is North Carolina defensively. NC State can play defensively. I mean, they're pretty good on that side of the football. Tigers get them at home. They get them on October the 1st at home. So it's interesting. The Boston College game is interesting timing, and the fact that it's sandwiched between NC State and a trip to Tallahassee. So that's the classic trap game that's going to come up that week before they hit the road for Chestnut Hill. People are going to be mentioning that. They got to go to Florida State next week. They just got out of an NC State game no matter what happened, and Boston College will, quote unquote, seem like a trap type game. So I think there's some challenge in this schedule. I really do. Again, there's a lot of unknowns, but I think that for the first time in a while, I look at it and I go, well, if you get a preseason top 25, NC State's going to be in there. Notre Dame's going to be in there. There's going to be a lot of people that have South Carolina and Miami right on the fringe, and then we'll kind of see from there. And you might have a quarter of your schedule in the preseason top 25, which says a lot for Clemson. It just hasn't been that way. It's nothing that they can control. This isn't a shot at the Tigers. It's just what it's been.
Yeah, it says a lot about the ACC. I mean, Clemson's got to hold their own. If other teams start trending up, the ACC also needs Clemson to hold its own, not go the other way. If this wants to be a conference that will get mentioned with the Big Ten and with the SEC, then Clemson needs to hold their own, and these other programs have to make that move as well.
Agreed.
Time will tell. And then it would benefit all of them.
I'll tell you what's benefiting some teams this year is moving games from traditional Saturdays to Thursdays and Fridays. The ACC is utilizing their network, quite frankly, and I think they're utilizing it fairly well to get Friday night matchups, Darren, to get Thursday night matchups. There's a lot of them out there. I don't know if this is an example of how far Florida State has fallen, but I mean, there was a time where Florida State would have no reason to not play on a Saturday. They were Florida State. It was must-see TV. I get it. They opened the season in New Orleans against LSU as part of that kickoff, whatever they call it down there. I can't remember the name of it now. The night before Clemson and Georgia Tech play that Sunday, September the 4th. But then week 3, Florida State is at Louisville on a Friday night. And then later on in the season, Florida State and Florida have moved their rivalry game to Friday night. Now, Florida State controls that because it's in Tallahassee. So the ACC had every, I don't know if Florida's thrilled about this or not, but doesn't matter. They're going to play that game. So that's a quarter of the schedule that Florida State will not be playing on Saturdays. And it's almost like, is this an effort to Florida State to kind of rebuild their brand like it's Friday Night Football? Let's be featured nationally. There's not a lot of games out there. People will watch Florida State, especially against LSU and against Florida, 2 SEC programs. I mean, I don't know, but it's a thought. I mean, Florida State's a name brand, Darren, that's been struggling, and it looks like they're trying to grab some headlines and some attention on days that aren't Saturdays.
I wonder how much of it was their doing, any at all, or if it's the ACC, and if it's television that's dictating, and the conference in this case that's dictating where those games go, because it makes sense to capture that Florida State game in particular. That one makes a heck of a lot of sense because there are some big matchups. That's the Friday right after Thanksgiving, so the next day. So there are some good football games that are typically on that day. This adds to that. And it makes sense to me. It makes sense from the ACC's standpoint, not necessarily from individual brand standpoint. It makes sense from the ACC standpoint to juggle the schedule so that they can get in front of, or not get in front. That's not the right way to put it, but dominate the night. That's a better way to put it. So they can be the TV viewing experience of that night. And the only way to do that is to take some of your Saturdays away, because if on Saturday your league is perceived as not one of the top leagues, then your games are not going to be in the prime spots, not a good portion of them. So throw a little wrench into it, be a little bit creative. That can help the brand of the ACC.
And trying to sell that ACC network as well. You got to have something to sell, and that's part of it. Darren, I'll say this too. Props to the ACC. A bunch of non-con early season matchups, really intriguing. West Virginia at Pitt on Thursday, September the 1st.
They don't like each other.
No, that's the backyard brawl. Is that the backyard brawl?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. So that's basically essentially kicking off week 1 of college football. There's a week 0 this year with two ACC teams playing, Duquesne at Florida State and Florida A&M at North Carolina. Speaking of North Carolina, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw this out there. Early February 1st prediction for college football this year. This is going to be one of my I told you so back in February's. Week 1, North Carolina, Darren, heads to Boone to take on App State.
Looks like week 2, right? They play early. They play a week 0, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, week 1 is week 0, week 1, week 2. So, but week 1. So week 2 for them, but week 1. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Week 2 on their schedule. But yeah, week 1 considering the college football time.
My only point is they come in with a game under their belt.
Yeah, Florida A&M. It's their second game of the year at App State.
Yeah.
But they go to Boone. Week 3 for them. They go to Georgia State. So here is my handy-dandy February prediction. Not both, but they lose one of those. I don't know which one. I don't know if it's going to be App State, and I don't know if it'll be Sean Elliott and Georgia State, but they're going to lose one of those. And they get them back-to-back. Like, how many Power 5 teams are traveling to back-to-back Group of 5 stadiums on the road? They might be the only one.
That's a setup for them, right? Because it's easy to look at that and say, what are you doing? I mean, what you're setting yourself up for. These are no-win situations. It's not easy to go play in Boone, number one. We all know that. And there's nothing to gain by going there and winning because it doesn't do much for you. And same thing with Georgia State. If they lose either one of those games, then the conversation we just had 5 minutes ago of thinking North Carolina's trending in the wrong direction, there's going to be a steamboat behind it if they drop either one of those games.
Yeah, and there'll also be a steamboat behind. Is Mac Brown done?
Mm-hmm.
You know, almost did he Lou Holtz like Colts did at South Carolina? He got the Gamecocks back into the conversation, built some respect onto the program, and then just could not sustain it from there. So, you know, we'll keep an eye on that. By the way, week 1, NC State is at East Carolina. I think you and I mentioned this a few weeks ago. It's an incredibly intriguing matchup. East Carolina trended way up as the season went on under Mike Houston. NC State's going to come in as a top 25 team to start the season. If not, a top 10 team. We'll have to see what it all looks like. Week 2's got some interesting matchups. Louisville is at Gus Malzahn and UCF. And Tennessee is at Pittsburgh in returning that game for this year. And then how about this in week 3, Darren? And this is where we could kind of start seeing some chips come on the table for how powerful the ACC is early on. Ole Miss is at Georgia Tech. It's a really interesting game for Rebels, trying to kind of rebrand themselves, although they've taken some nice transfers, Jackson Dart and Michael Trigg going to Ole Miss. But they got to go to Georgia Tech. So Georgia Tech has an incredibly difficult open to the season. They've got Clemson in that first one, and then they will host Western Carolina before Ole Miss coming to town. Miami is at Texas A&M, and Texas Tech is at NC State. So, you know, those are really, really, really interesting Power 5 matchups because they're what I would consider blue-collar games for the league. Blue-collar type Power 5 programs coming in with a lot to prove. The ACC itself having a lot to prove. So that's going to be a neat week. And then I also circled week 10, Clemson at Notre Dame, Florida State at Miami, because I'm anxious to see with those two teams. Florida State's got to get it going under Mike Norvell. He's not going to be there a while. And we'll see what Miami looks like this year under Mario Cristobal. So I'll have to look at it on the schedule, but
I feel like Florida State is trending the right way. The fact that they the fact they got through this year, and it required some public support of Norvell to get through this year, but it felt like it was kind of a wash your hands clean and kind of restart everything type of a year.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the rebrand. You use that for Miami, a little bit of Florida State with his guys, with the culture, the way he wants it. You forgot Purdue and Syracuse because everyone's going to be watching that. That's week 3 also.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to be watching that. Actually, props to Purdue. They've done a nice job. Florida State. Just want to be clear here. Make sure that I'm right. I know we got to get a break because we got Keith coming up here, but Florida State. I'm looking at the transfer portal because I know they were bringing in a ton of guys. Yeah, they've brought in 10 transfers, and yeah. So we'll see if they can get themselves kind of reestablished with a new group of talent. But they got a bunch of guys who have made their way to Tallahassee, and we'll see what they look like, certainly. But yeah, ACC is really interesting this year. I feel like there's some teams that could end up being really good, and some teams that Georgia Tech, Florida State,
ton of question marks.
Yeah, Norvell, Collins, those
chance.
guys. Darren, they got to have good years. If they don't have good years, it's probably over for both of them in their short tenures.
Yes, I would agree. Both of them
in this age we're in. All right, timeout. When we return, Keith Allsep pops in, and we'll get into tonight's Dogs Gamecocks matchup in Starkville. Hopefully, you won't ever need legal help for a catastrophic injury or health issues from a medical drug or device. But if you or a loved one suffers injury or loss, Motley Rice LLC is a nationally recognized law firm that is right here in Mount Pleasant at 28 Ridgeside Boulevard. Thank you, Motley Rice, for sponsoring the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Visit motleyrice.com for more. motleyrice.com.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity finance to new loan, subject to lender approval.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West. Okay, what's going on today, huh? Anything to talk about?
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon. Greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon. Greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, 1:35, final set on this Tuesday afternoon. It is beautiful outside, Darren. I cannot wait. And my kids have been home sick, so that's not fun, but they're feeling better, so I'm going to take them on a walk. And by walk, as I told you earlier, I mean golf cart ride once they finally get up from nap time here. Real quick, before we get Keith in, another outstanding slate tonight of college basketball. And if you are like Darren, you'll probably bet on it. The Big 12 has
so much. There's so much good stuff tonight.
This one might end up being the best one. We'll find out. Kansas is at Iowa State in a Big 12 clash at 7 on ESPN, 10-20 matchup there. Kansas 2.5-point favorites. Michigan State is at Maryland, just 3-7 in the Big 10 of the Terps tonight at 7 on ESPN2 from College Park. But the Spartans are only 3.5-point favorites in the ball game there. A&M's at Tennessee. Darren mentioned earlier, keep an eye on this. The Vols are 11-point favorites, but sometimes it's good to get away from home. So we'll see what Texas A&M looks like up on Rocky Top. The Iron Bowl of the Hardwood on ESPN tonight at 9. Bama is at Auburn. Auburn's a 6-point favorite at home there and looking to stay unscathed in the SEC. They're 8-0. They'd be 9-0 for you Auburn grads. They can't figure that out. Texas is at Texas Tech tonight at 9 on ESPN2. That's another great Big 12 matchup. Texas Tech is a 4.5-point favorite there from, I love this name, United Supermarkets Arena. Providence is at St. John's. St. John's?
Shocking line. Shocking line. There's a couple of people that are on it and a couple of people thinking other ways, like professional handicapping type. Ken Palm is on that too. He's got St. John's there. I don't understand that one.
Well, somebody knows something we don't know, but they are 3-point favorites at home. And then Ole Miss tonight at LSU. LSU hanging by a thread in the top 25. We'll see if the Rebels can be Rebels tonight in Baton Rouge. Hey, Keith.
How's it going?
Oh, just taking Darren's betting tips, even though I don't bet. I'm
7-3 last night, by the way.
Really?
Yep.
What'd you lose? Did you win the Wyoming matchup?
Yeah. I told you yesterday that was like the first bet I placed was Wyoming.
That's right. Is that why you texted me, go Wyoming in capital
letters? Yes. That's exactly why.
I thought you were just being a fan.
No, I don't care that you like them. Someone asked me the other day, they're like, so who do you root for? I was like, me. I root for me. Who do you root for?
Who do you root for, Keith?
I root for the people that live under this roof where I am.
Fair.
Me too. Yeah, that's exactly who I root for. Well, tonight, as a Gamecock fan, I'll be rooting for South Carolina in Starkville, Mississippi on ESPNU. Derek Scott and Casey Manning, of course, will have the call at 6:30 on the Gamecock Sports Radio Network. Carolina looking for their second straight quad one win, their fourth straight victory overall, and they'll have to do it against a bunch of Bulldogs that they're pretty good, and they're looking to get back on the winning side of things tonight, Keith. But Gamecocks come in on a 3-game winning streak, and that is good news.
Yeah, I mean, you get Vanderbilt, you get Georgia, you sleepwalk through 2/3 of the game, you go on a big run, you win. Texas A&M loses 3 straight. It's very competitive. You're down, and then you go on another big run, you win that. Now you go to Mississippi State. Tolu Smith, who's maybe the best big in the SEC. Last year, he led the SEC in double-doubles. He got injured, a partially dislocated kneecap. So he's probably out. The guy that's replaced him, Cameron Matthews, 6'7", 225, is not 6'11", 245. And so, Gamecocks are living a charmed life. The bad news is Mississippi State 14-4 at the hump against South Carolina, including the last 4. Mississippi State's won 6 of the last 8. And they are in the top 3 in the SEC in field goal percentage, rebounding margin, and defensive rebounding percentage. And I think Iverson Molinar scored in double figures in all 20 games. So still at the hump. It's a tough place to play, but not as tough as if Tolu Smith is healthy. So
they're three. They all four of their SEC wins have come at home. Their losses are on the road. Those are against Arkansas, Georgia, Alabama, and Ole Miss. Thus far, what is it? Have you ever been there? I've never been there. Why is it so difficult to play in there?
I've never been there. It's small. It only seats about 10,500. They're right on you. It's kind of like it was when Fogler had it going, which, Jamie, you were probably in elementary school then. At the old Coliseum, back like when McGuire had it going in the early 70s to mid 70s. It's a smaller arena. They put a lot of people in it, and it's loud in there.
I can remember those days like they were yesterday. I spent a lot of my childhood there, pulling up, eating at Wendy's across the street, walking over, sitting in Frank McGuire Arena. And when they were good, which in my heyday, Keith, was 96, 97, 97, 98. I think I was a teenager. It was piercing loud in there. As you mentioned, it went straight up. Yep. And it was real loud. So that you're saying the hump is similar to that, I guess.
Yeah, my dad had season tickets back then, and his season tickets were the next to the top row at McGuire Arena. But he saw a lot of good basketball games there.
But those weren't bad seats. There wasn't really a bad seat in the gym.
Now, I mean, look, the next to the last row in the top in the corner is not an ideal seating spot. It's not as good as when I was a high school coach. We got tickets either behind the bench or behind the basket. And when LSU came in there with this guy named Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, pretty good player.
He threw one off the backboard to himself, and poor Jeff Ralston. I mean, if he hadn't have been 7 foot tall, he literally would have just been an engineer and been happy to do it if he was 6'3", but because he was 7 foot, he had to play. And I just remember Shaq throwing that ball kind of off the backboard to himself because he had picked up his dribble and he dunked it. And I was sitting behind the basket and he pulled it all the way down. And when it went back up, I expected the glass to shatter and hit me in the face, and I kind of ducked.
Like blue chips.
Yes.
Exactly. That's probably the moment that they realized that Shaq should be in blue chips.
I mean, I was actually an advisor to that, and I kind of set all that
up. Yeah. You had Leon Badeau in there, huh? Old Leon Badeau. Algiers. It's one of the best lines in the whole movie. Well, Keith, Carolina's won 3 straight. I've mentioned over and over and over that Frank teams that get good point guard play or better point guard play, develop guys down low, and you get defense and transition it into offense. Those are good signs for Frank Martin teams. That generally means that things are getting better. We've seen that the last 3 weeks. It's been in 3 weeks, 3 games. It's been in spurts, but it's been there much more so than it had been leading up to these last 3 games. What have you seen that's led you to believe that they've either improved or haven't?
Well, I mean, Frank Martin probably doesn't like that they sleptwalked through the first 30 minutes of the Georgia game, and then Georgia woke up and realized we really suck. I mean, it's like Georgia was having a dream for like 30 minutes of that game that they were really good, and then they woke up. You know how when you wake up and you just feel like you fell and just, that's what happened with Georgia. Vanderbilt, they had a big run there. They were much better defensively. At Texas A&M, they started hitting shots. I mean, Frank Martin and Buzz Williams, their teams are mirror images of each other. And, South Carolina just started making shots, knocking down big shots. Cousinard knocking down shots. Reese knocking down shots. Stevenson knocking down shots. And both teams were basically, if that would have been in a college bar, they would have called the police. Because it's so physical on defense.
Were you working on your analogies today? You've come out with a couple.
I really hadn't been. I'm just that good. So.
Talent. There's some talent there. Jermaine is such an interesting case, Keith. He is a different Jermaine when he's playing off the ball. When he's in there at point guard, it scares the daylights out of me. But when he can roam free and get out and create shots, and I feel like when he's not thinking, he's just playing basketball. He's the Jermaine Cousinard that we love to watch play. I mean, he's really good off the ball. But when he's out there in control of it, it just seems different. Struggles.
I mean, here's the thing, though, is if it's not him, it's a true freshman. Whether, it's Carter or Jacoby Wright. And Devin Carter really couldn't handle the heat of the Texas A&M defense. Right?
You're right.
And Jacoby Wright, he's had a lot of growing pains. I think both are going to be outstanding players, but it's just the point of the fact is that for what is this? The 5th straight year is point guard is a revolving door. And if you don't have a dude that can run your team consistently and play 28, 30 plus minutes at point guard and do it at a consistent level of being at least good and on a lot of nights really good, you're just not going to win a whole lot of basketball games. And that's been South Carolina's issue ever since P.J. Dozier left. You can look at it. It's one guy in the summer. This is Chico Carter. Well, even though he played 2 guard at Murray State, we're bringing him in to run the point. Frank believes he can really do it. Well, maybe it's Eric Stevenson. Stevenson. Well, then now it's Jermaine. Now it's Jacoby Wright. Now it's Devin Carter. Now it's who's it?
I don't know, but Jacoby Wright's the best point guard on the team.
Yeah.
I mean, he's your point guard of the future.
To me, Jermaine Cousinard's the best point guard on the team. They need him to be that guy, to be able to do both, because South Carolina's at their best when they have Cousinard, Stevenson, and Reese all on the floor together.
I agree. I don't disagree with that, but I mean, Jermaine does not shoot it well when he's at point. I mean, he's much better off the ball. He knocks down shots, and they need someone to knock down shots. They might just have to play 4 guards at a time.
And he's one of the biggest turnover problems. So the more often he's handling the ball, the efficiency drops.
I don't understand that.
It shouldn't be that way. That's just the way it is.
I know. Yeah, I mean
that's why. Look, things are never as good as they seem. Things are never as bad as they seem. And just like with football, it's like nothing existed before December 13th other than Auburn and Florida. And everybody's forgot about, we couldn't get across midfield against Clemson. They shut us out. Texas A&M, we had negative yardage going into the 4th quarter, or no yardage, really. Mm-hmm. And isn't basketball, now there's a 3-game win streak. And, Texas A&M just lost. That was their 4th straight loss. And you beat Vanderbilt twice, and you beat Georgia at home, because man, they really suck. Even though they turn around and beat Alabama the next day, because Alabama is maddening. I mean, imagine being Nate Oates, that you can play all the top teams off their backsides, basically, and then you lose to Georgia.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I think for South Carolina, these next 3 or 4 games are going to be the tale of the tape. Okay. The bad news is, the good news, you got Mississippi State without Tolu Smith tonight. You got to take advantage of that. The bad news is, the next time you might play Mississippi State at home, Tolu Smith probably going to be back to full tilt. So can you win at a place where you've not historically played well? And then, can you continue to build, off of that, these next few games? Because, I mean, it was great going to Texas A&M and winning, and Frank should have called me and I could have told him the exact place to go to get the barbecue, but he didn't. Yeah. And then I don't know what's even up with going to Fogo de Chao or wherever they went. I mean,
well, look, you've said a lot of the things too that Darren and I've talked about. We, going into the Vanderbilt Georgia games, Darren, we discussed it. Said, look, you got to break this season up into different stretches here to try to figure out, the ultimate goal. Which, I mean, if people aren't talking about the NCAA tournament, they just don't need to watch basketball. The goal is to get into the tournament. Period. The end. So how do you get there? And you couldn't lose Georgia or Vanderbilt, and they didn't do that. And then in this quad one stretch, in my personal opinion, more than likely you're going to have to win 2 of them, which they've already done that. They've already won 1. And then you got Georgia and Ole Miss. Probably need to find a way to go on the road and win both of those games. They've owned Georgia the last few years. And then you got that stretch of LSU, Mississippi State, Alabama, Missouri, and Auburn to finish. And 4 of those 5 are quad one opportunities. You probably got to find a way to win 3 of them. So it's a very, very tall task. But so far, they've been able to check the boxes of what they need to do to continue to go in the right direction, Keith. And, have they beat Vanderbilt twice and Georgia once? Sure. But historically, they go to Vanderbilt and get their ass beat. And they didn't do that this year. They won the game. A&M's lost 4 straight games because Carolina beat them. They lost 3 before that. They would not have lost 4 straight games if Carolina didn't beat them. So, this team deserves credit. I don't. What happened in December and in early January matters, but what happens now matters more. Have they gotten better or worse? And they won 3 straight games. So I'm going to give them credit until they digress, which could happen tonight, but hopefully it doesn't.
Isn't it also a good thing? How often have we talked about in every Gamecock sport? Here we go again, as the schedule lines up with the hottest team after the hottest team after the hottest team after the hottest team, and that's just always how it seems to play out. Kind of take all right, A&M's not playing its best ball. All right, we got a little confidence over Georgia and Vanderbilt, then beat a team that isn't playing their best ball on the road. Still a good win. I mean, shouldn't there be the other side of that coin too? I mean, as much as it's, oh my God, here comes the next hottest team in the country, it's okay. There are opportunities here.
Yeah. I mean, there are opportunities. You got to take advantage of them.
That's right.
I mean, that's the thing. Like South Carolina tonight at the hump with Tolu Smith out of the game, they need to take advantage of that.
Agreed.
Keith, that's a 6'11", 245-pound shot blocker, double-digit scorer, double-digit rebounder that is not going to be on the floor barring some kind of miraculous, I don't know if Mr. Miyagi is going to go back there and lay hands on him or if it's going to be Jimmy Swaggart. I don't know. But barring that, they got an opportunity. They need to take advantage. Ben Howland's another guy that the reason he was very successful at UCLA was because he believed in defense, and he took defense from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and the steel mills of Western PA and the streets of Philly and all of that out to LA.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's another game that it's going to be very physical on both ends of the floor.
Here's what I love about this, Keith. The league is so good. I mean, it's really, really good this year. And so obviously that presents an incredible challenge for not just South Carolina, but for anybody to get through it and be as successful as they feel like they should be. But it also provides such an honest moment for this basketball program, because you're either going to be good enough or you're not going to be good enough. I mean, you'll be able to argue the ins and outs and the X's and O's and the bad plays or whatever it was, the mistakes that were made. Oh, they could have won that game. Yeah, but you didn't. Well, they shouldn't have won that game. Yeah, but they did. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to get through this stretch. I mean, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the next 10 game are quad one chances. You're going to know everything you know. At the end of the year, you're either good enough or you're not good enough.
I mean, that's it. I mean, you let it play out. You know, you go until to me, the point of no return. And at that point, then, you know, either you're going to the dance or you're not. And if you're not, you know, and you're not going to the NIT, or you don't make a deep run in the NIT, then, you know, what comes next, or what comes next if you do make it to the dance, because you got a really nice recruiting class. There's this guy named G.G. Jackson, who's maybe the number one player in the country for 2023, that you got a lot of positive vibes going there if you can do it.
Yeah.
And so for Frank Martin and his team and that staff, that's the road that's in front of them.
How about Bryce Lindsey? I haven't spoken about him much. We talked to Derek on Friday, and he said, pay attention, something's coming out in a minute. And he was right. Bryce Lindsey committed. We only have a couple of minutes left, Keith, but what have you seen from this young man? What do you like about him?
Well, he's 6'3". He's kind of thin. He's, you know, some guys say he's very similar to, you know, a high school version of Steph Curry, although I remember when Curry came out, he weighed 145 pounds.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of people didn't recruit him. And so I don't say that. I mean, everything I've read and watching, he's had multiple games this year where he's had made 6 or 7 threes. He had one game he made 10. He's got really deep range on it, and he handles the ball really well. And so to me, there's a lot to like about it.
Is he a point guard at the next level?
He is a point guard.
In college, he is? You think so?
So is Steph Curry. So is Steph Curry now a point guard. He's also the best shooter probably in the history of the game. So
unbelievable.
You know, and look, I'm not saying he's Steph Curry. I'm not saying that. I'm saying other people liking his skill set and his work ethic and his game. I'm like the same age as Dale Curry. And so I remember him coming into the Coliseum when we were in the Metro and just, you know, launching bombs from 30 feet like it was a free throw. I mean, so it really wasn't that big of a shock to me that his son could shoot it, you know, from really deep.
Darren, tweet out, Allsep says Bryce Lindsey is next Steph Curry.
Steph Curry 2.0.
I've already put up the full disclaimer on that, and I'll put up a really bad meme if that appears with my name next to it. So you wasted 25 minutes not even talking about the number one team in the country. So
I don't think it was wasted. We're talking basketball.
Yeah, we didn't waste anything.
My apologies, not wasted. I really didn't mean that.
Gamecocks.
Poor choice of words.
Gamecocks at
25
20-1.
minutes spent on a mediocre basketball program.
Well, no, I spent 25 minutes on the basketball program everybody around here wants to talk about, and that's how we keep listeners around here. You know how this works.
Hopefully 2 weeks from now, they'll still be listening.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, man, Keith.
I mean, look, it's like tomorrow is Groundhog Day. Okay, watch the movie. It's the same day every day. Every year we get to this point, and it's in the same place. Won a few early games, or just won 3 games in a row, and we're getting to the same spot. All I'm wanting to do is wake up, and it's not Groundhog Day again.
Don't wake up tomorrow. Well, I mean, but
it's Groundhog Day every day. That's why I've said and coined the phrase basketball purgatory. And until Frank Martin gets South Carolina out of basketball purgatory, or he don't, and South Carolina basketball gets rid of him, it's going to be the same thing every year until it's not. And that's just how I feel about it.
That's fine. I mean, hey, you feel how you want to feel. I don't have a problem with that.
I'm ready to go down this road. It's good for everybody, for Frank Martin to win a lot more games than he's been winning every year the last 4 years.
Sure.
It's better for him. It's better for your show. It's better for my show. It's better for the university.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's better for everybody. I want it to happen. I'm skeptical that with this group that it will happen, but I'm hoping that it will happen.
Yeah. I mean, look, I there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
I'm just not, I'm not going. He really hadn't earned the benefit of the doubt to me. That's just how I feel.
Well, from our standpoint, Darren and I come on here and talk sports every day about what's going on, and what's going on is Gamecocks have won 3 straight games. I mean, this program is not going to be a program that, and I'm not saying that you do this, Keith. This has nothing to do with you, but there's a lot of people out there, as you well know, if you get on message boards, they win, nobody says a word about it. Don't get on social media. Congratulations, nothing. This program is going to give credit when credit is due. And if credit ain't due, then we'll discuss what in the world happened and what needs to happen, just like we were doing when they were struggling. How many times around here did we talk about the future of Frank and the future of this program and this, that, and the other? And we did it week in and week out and week in and week out and week in and week out. And now all of a sudden they've put things together and they're headed in the right direction. They deserve credit for that. And so, if 107.5 The Game or John Smith's podcast or Tom, Dick, and Harry, who are on the Big Spur, don't want to give them credit, I don't give a crap. I'm going to give them credit because the kids deserve it. They're working their tails off. They've done a nice job, and they've got a chance. They've given themselves a chance. And so we're going to talk about them. And people want to, people around here want to talk about them. That's what I get calls about and texts and messages. So, we're going to discuss it. And the last 3 games has been worthy of discussing because I don't care who they've played. This is a good league this year, and they've won all 3 games.
If they can bottle that last 8 minutes, and particularly that one play on the out of bounds where the Aggie students are really giving the bench a lot of crap. And the guy throws the ball back in bounds by the Gamecock bench. It hits a Gamecock and then goes back out of bounds where it hits him before it hits the ground. And the referee blew the call, and the students are going nuts. If you focus on the Gamecock bench and Josh Gray and Trayvon Minot, they were giving it right back. And you could really see the enthusiasm. So, I mean, look, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer. I just don't want to continue to be Charlie Brown with the football.
I think that's where JB deserves credit. He's not being Charlie Brown, right? It's just having a conversation about what, and we started the show and yesterday about how much progress has been made and focusing. This is a big game to evaluate that progress, to see, and it's not all about a win and a loss. This is a big game to evaluate the progress, and what we've seen over the last 3 games. This game will give us a bigger snapshot as a 4-game whole here than those 3, because you had the 2, Georgia, Vanderbilt, fine. A&M, Mississippi State on the road. Where is this team? If they go beat Mississippi State, I can tell you they should absolutely beat Tennessee at home. I mean, that's how I feel right now about this team. This game is a big game for them tonight.
All right, so for me, the 3 games that I circle is not tonight, even though they do have that opportunity with Tolu Smith out. For me, it's Saturday on CBS, on national TV at home against Tennessee, and then it's February the 12th at Georgia, which you damn well, you better win that game. You got to win that game. If you beat Tennessee and Mississippi State and you go and lose at Georgia, that is going to be a horrendous loss. Okay. And then at Ole Miss. To me, those are the 3 games. If South Carolina wins those 3 games, they're on their way, in my opinion. And at that point, I'll be pulling the wagon at that point if they do that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, Keith, and it never works out the way that we think. You know, you look at schedules and you predict games, wins and losses and stuff like that. It never works out like that. But to your point, I'm hoping it does, because, you know, what you don't want is losing to Georgia or Ole Miss. Those would be bad losses. Like I'll put it this way. Literally, unless there's 10 games left, literally, unless you win every game left on your schedule, you can't lose to either one of those teams. I mean, honestly, like I would go as far as to say that, because you'd have plenty of wins to offset it. But if you lose to Ole Miss or Georgia, which would be, well, Georgia's definitely quad 4. I guess Ole Miss would probably be quad 4 as well. You know, you're gonna have to go win the SEC tournament. But you know, you win tonight. You know, let's just focus on tonight. And as we mentioned earlier, if they don't win tonight, if you bracket this schedule and the fact that you still have Tennessee and Kentucky coming up as part of quad 1 opportunities, Kentucky is such a long shot at this point in time. So you circle Tennessee, and you still got a chance to get out of this stretch at 2-2, and then things are still on the table. You win tonight, you're ahead of schedule. So I think I'm just happy to be able to talk about, like, hey, there is a chance. There's some teams that don't have a chance right now, and South Carolina's got a chance. And let's see what they do with it.
95 in the Ken Palm. If they won tonight, that would go up significantly.
Oh, huge.
I mean, every game.
You win the next 2, you're in the top.
Yeah, right. I mean, but every game is just huge for this team. Every night, you know, you win one, then the pressure builds for the next one, and then the next one, and then, oh my God, you can't lose that one, right? Like we were just saying. And so they're not going to win all the rest of the games.
No.
But to me, you got a better shot at home against Tennessee than you probably do against Mississippi State. Kentucky's playing otherworldly right now.
Unbelievable.
And then at Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, you need to win those. LSU's kind of been struggling.
Yep. Let's see how they look tonight.
You can really set yourself up.
Yeah.
And either, you know, you will or you won't. So, I mean, it's
better
like
win.
today, it's going to be 68 degrees, and Thursday it's going to be 28 and sleeting and raining.
Well, they better win the LSU game. That's my daughter. Those are going to be my daughter's first ever Carolina basketball game, so they better win that one. I'm going to let Frank know that I'm on the way, and he better figure it out. He better get the boys figuring it out, because I can't introduce them to a losing basketball team.
Well, JB, you know, them LSU scholarships, they're worth a lot more than the ones we're giving out at South Carolina.
I just can't wait to see everybody boo Will Wade. I cannot stand watching him on the sidelines. God, he drives me insane.
How does that dude even have a job?
I don't know. Darren's known him for a long time. I know Darren likes him on a personal level. I guess he was always good to you, which is I totally respect, because I know a lot of people that have been great to me that people don't like. But I don't know him, so I don't care for him.
I can acknowledge he has made some slip ups along the way.
Yeah,
don't want to know him.
Yeah, Keith, we got to let you run on that note. I've got children squirming. Darren's got a meeting to get to, and it's National Texas Day. So go get yourself some brisket, my friend.
So does that mean Texas tonight? I haven't decided that game yet.
Well, Texas, you know.
That's true. And that's where I'm leaning, but I haven't decided that.
It's National Dark Chocolate Day, so maybe have some dark chocolate, Keith, to celebrate the great state of Texas.
I will do neither. I'm on the second day of a 21-day cleanse.
Oh.
So no brisket, no chocolate on the menu.
I'm not having any bourbon till Friday, if that makes you feel any better.
I went to Outback last night and had steak and cake and all that stuff.
Well, it was your birthday. So.
Oh, happy belated birthday, DG.
Darren, or as some doofus on Twitter called him the other night, the fat guy who pulls for Penn State.
Something like that.
What is wrong with people? The guy's an idiot. He's claims to be a Carolina fan. We're ushering him out of the fan base. Find something else to do. Thank you, Keith. Have a wonderful week, my friend.
All right, guys.
The Locked On The Gamecocks podcast, hosted by Keith Allsep, as you well know, is sensational. Follow him on Twitter at KAllsep or Locked On Gamecocks. Thanks to Keith and Wes Mitchell. On 3, remember, $1. $1 for Gamecock Central with On 3. Tomorrow, it's Groundhog Day. We get J.C. Sherbert on Groundhog Day. Oh, my sweet Jesus. I don't know what's happening.
Who knows?
Something's going to happen. We'll see if he emerges to find his shadow. Thanks to Darren, as always. Have a terrific Tuesday afternoon. If you're in the Low Country, have it at the Dog and Duck. They've got a great menu, man. Cold beer, too. See you tomorrow, right here on the JB and Goldwater Show.